Hey, this is Nicky G and welcome to Better Commander. Today we're going to be talking about a new commander out of New Capenna, Rigo, Streetwise Mentor. Wow, so Streets of New Capenna has been a wild ride. Who knew that a shard set would bring us so many interesting commanders? Well, we all knew that, or at least we thought that, but it's the gift that just keeps on giving so far. Before we get too deep into story time, I just wanted to remind you all to subscribe to my channel. I do videos at least twice a week, and you may be building a commander or even building a commander archetype, and you may need to see the cards you've never seen before. That's what this is all about, spreading the word like spreading cream cheese. In the craziness of 2020, we all saw the reserve list spike like crazy. Cards that were 75 cents shot up 500%. Suddenly, my Autumn Willow collection was enough to buy 2 smoothies and maybe a case of Twizzlers. Anyways, I decided to go through my bulk boxes and make sure that I wasn't missing any crappy old reserve list cards. I found an Elvish Farmer, I found a Morin Fen. Beautiful art, by the way, on both of those cards. In searching through my alphabetized and organized by converted mana cost green enchantments, I spotted an Aluren. Sweet fancy Moses, I shouted into my empty house. This card was like 80 bucks, and I'm sure I opened it and thought, man, this is crap, and then put it in the sleeve and forgot about it. It was pristine, sleeved, never been played before. Anyways, after Chulane was released, I realized that this thing was really wild if your deck was built to take advantage. You could get infinite ETB and creature triggers if you looped anything with Shrieking Drake or White Mane Lion. Sounded interesting, but I never did anything with it. Chulane was just busted and was already making waves in competitive circles. Cue the release of Streets of New Capenna and Rigo, Streetwise Mentor. So this is a hybrid Selesnya, a white mana, and a hybrid Azorius. For a legendary creature, it's a cat citizen 2/2. Rigo Streetwise Mentor enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it. Whenever you attack a player or planeswalker with 1 or more creatures with power 1 or less, draw a card. So if I understand this correctly, if you attack all 3 of your opponents with little weenies, you get to draw 3 cards. This is incredibly powerful. I glossed over this card when I first saw it, but this cat citizen is better than at first glance. Man, I went into a deep hole with Rigo lore. Turns out he was a boxer and fought his way to the top of the NCBO. That's a New Capenna boxing organization. At the top, he faced a Russian boxer and lost in a decision, but he went the distance. You know, that was the important thing. And he married his sweetheart, Adrian. Adrian had a daughter named Apollo Creed, and Rigo gave up boxing because he had severe brain damage. So he went and ran the streets of New Capenna with his daughter, Apollo, who was half woman, half cat, but all moxie, you know? Just kidding, I have no idea what his lore is anyways. In a deck like this, we need evasive weenies, preferably ones that have some additional utility, like say, when this creature deals combat damage, draw a card or something like that. We can also use ninjutsu to sneak in some bigger attackers with useful effects. There's some good ninjas in blue. Then we need ways to make these little fellas and the big fellas and also into a win. We need to go wide, and we need go wide pump, or we need ways to capitalize off of all of the creatures entering the battlefield. So we're in blue and white, so we have access to some premium removal as well, so you definitely want to salt that in. So what weenies are good weenies in this deck? Well, there are about 18 creatures that cost 1 or 2 mana and have some type of evasion and have power less than or equal to 1. Obvious includes Invisible Stalker. It's 1 and a blue for a creature. It's a human rogue. It's a 1/1. Has hexproof. Also, Invisible Stalker can't be blocked. Hope of Girapur is 1 generic mana for a legendary artifact creature. It's a Thopter and it's a 1/1. Has flying. Sacrifice Hope of Girapur until your next turn. Target player who was dealt combat damage by Hope of Girapur can't cast non-creature spells. So if you really want to screw somebody over, or it's the end of the game and you just need somebody not to cast a board wipe, you can sack Hope of Girapur and hope for the best. Wingcrafter is 1 blue mana for a creature. It's a human wizard 1/1. Soul Bond. You may pair this creature with another unpaired creature when either enters the battlefield. They remain paired for as long as you control both of them. As long as Wingcrafter is paired with another creature, both creatures have flying. So this is a way to give another utility weenie some evasion. Despite having been in Magic for a long time, I don't remember ever seeing this card, but I think it's good for 1 blue mana. Tetsuko Umezawa Fugitive, 1 and a blue for a legendary creature. It's a human rogue. It's a 1/3. Creatures you control with power 1 or less can't be blocked. So giving evasion to all of our creatures is pretty awesome in this deck. Oh, Cloud of Fairies. It's 1 and a blue. It's a little Cloud of Fairies. For a creature fairy, 1/1 flying. When Cloud of Fairies enters the battlefield, untap up to 2 lands. It also has cycling for 2 generic mana. Okay, that's enough of that. All right, so all these guys are coming in and they're going to be unblocked. So what are some good ninjas we can sneak in? There's a total of 16 rogues or ninjas, so Prosperous Thief is great. It's 2 and a blue for a creature. Human Ninja, it's a 3/2. Has ninjutsu for 2. So whenever one or more ninja or rogue creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. This deck's all going to be about attacking as many different players as possible and creating value with our commander, so this might help to generate a couple treasures per turn. I've been looking for a deck for this little green ninja. Springleaf Avengers, 3 green for a creature. Insect Ninja, it's a 6/5. Ninjutsu for 3 and a green. So whenever it deals combat damage to a player, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. This is a beefy recursion machine. Probably you're only going to get 1 shot, but it's also a decent blocker. Thousand Face Shadow is blue for a creature. Human Ninja, it's a 1/1. Has ninjutsu for 2, blue. So it also has flying, so when Thousand Face Shadow enters the battlefield from your hand if it's attacking, so basically if you ninjutsu it in, create a token that's a copy of another target attacking creature. The token enters the battlefield tapped and attacking. I like this guy for his ability to create a utility token, and for the fact that at baseline this is blue for a 1/1 flyer, which is what we want in this deck. Okay, so we have all these little fellas flying and phasing and busting onto the battlefield, so how do we take advantage of that? Well, Aura Shards. This card can be devastating for our opponents. We're casting many cheap creatures and each one turns into a naturalize. I cannot stress how good this card is in a deck like this when we're casting 2 or 3 creatures per turn, sometimes more. So we love to draw cards, and here comes a Commander Classic. Mentor of the Meek for 2 and a white. Creature Human Soldier, it's a 2/2. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. Simple. Welcoming Vampires, 2 and a white for a creature. Vampire 2/3 has flying. Whenever one or more other creatures with power 2 or less enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn, so if you get 1 card off of this on your turn, I'd say it's worth it. So we're going to be attacking with a bunch of evasive creatures, so let's draw some cards on damage, shall we? So we have Edric, Spymaster of Trest, 1 green and a blue for a legendary creature, Elf Rogue. See, there's a rogue. He's a 2/2. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may draw a card. So you're giving your opponent some stuff, but maybe they won't hit Edric with removal. Reconnaissance Mission. I see myself including this in a lot of decks lately, so it's 2 blue for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. It also has cycling, 2 generic mana. So there's a few cards that are very similar to this enchantment, but I only included this one as in playtesting I was drawing way too many cards and didn't need more effects like this. Toski, Bearer of Secrets, 3 green for a legendary creature, Squirrel, it's a 1/1. The spell can't be countered, has indestructible, and it attacks each combat if able. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. This little guy will draw his cards as the goal is to attack with evasive or unblockable creatures, and he's going to be attacking anyway. Hopefully he won't get destroyed in some way, but indestructible will help with that. It's going to be hard to win attacking with 1/1s and 0/1s. Our opponents have 120 life total, so that puts them on like an 80 turn clock. So we need some better ways to make things happen. So Bant, we have creatures, you're going to need Derevi, Imperial Tactician. It's green, white, and a blue for a legendary creature, Bird Wizard, 2/3 with flying. Whenever Derevi Imperial Tactician enters the battlefield or a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may tap or untap target permanent. He also has some text about putting him onto the battlefield from the command zone, but we're not going to worry about that. So if we can get enough creatures damaging our opponents, we can essentially have a second main phase to cast a bunch more stuff. Very good in this deck. Adeline, Resplendent Cathar. So this is 1 white for a legendary creature, Human Knight, has Vigilance. Adeline, Resplendent Cathar's power is equal to the number of creatures you control. Whenever you attack, for each opponent, create a 1/1 white human creature token that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control. I'm not sure what pillar this fits into in our deck building, but this card makes a lot of bodies and just seems good in this deck. It also has a sweet little dope little token with a pumpkin head. Bess, Soul Nourisher, 1 green and a white for a legendary creature. It's a human citizen, it's a 1/1. Whenever one or more other creatures with base power and toughness 1/1 enter the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Bess. Whenever Bess attacks, each other creature you control with base power and toughness 1/1 get +X/+X until the end of turn, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Bess. Again, this is a pump effect for our evasive 1/1s, of which there are 23 in this deck. Something I didn't like about the 1920s flappers is the hats, man. I can't get with that. Beastmaster Ascension. This is an awesome card. 2 green for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, you may put a quest counter on Beastmaster Ascension. As long as Beastmaster Ascension has 7 or more quest counters on it, creatures you control get +5/+5. This is an awesome win condition in this deck. It basically pumps all of our little evasive creatures, and if we put it onto the battlefield and attack with 7 creatures, all of a sudden our guys are going to be huge and we're going to have a huge board. Speaking of huge boards, Cathar's Crusade is 3 white for an enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Again, this will pump our creatures terribly fast, especially if we're casting 2 or 3 per turn. Rabble Rousing, rabble. So 4 and a white for an enchantment, has Hideaway 5. Whenever you attack with 1 or more creatures, create that many 1/1 green and white citizen creature tokens. Then if you control 10 or more creatures, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. I'm not sure if this is good or not. In my playtesting, it seems pretty good. It just needs more testing, but it's doubling our weenies, and I like that in conjunction with our go wide win conditions. Speaking of which, here's Mirror Entity. Look at this guy. Imagine if you saw this looming over your bed in the night. So it's 2 and a white for a creature shapeshifter. It's a 1/1 changeling. This card is every creature type. So it has this weird ability. You just pay X. Until the end of turn, creatures you control have base power and toughness XX and gain all creature types. So you attack with several 1/1s, draw your cards off of our commander, then pump them up with 7 mana and deal damage. This thing has been powerful forever, especially in go wide strategies. Giselle Goldmane is 2 white for a legendary creature Cat Warrior. It's a 4/4 with first strike. 3 white attacking creatures you control get +X until the end of turn, where X is the number of attacking creatures. If you can get up to 10 mana, trigger this twice, bash in with evasive 12/12s. I mean, hopefully at that point you're in a winning position. Alright, this card's a bit of a cheat. Craterhoof Behemoth is 5 green. Total mana cost 8 for a creature beast 5/5. It has haste, so when Craterhoof Behemoth enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain trample and get +X until the end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. Okay, I know this thing costs $30. It's super powerful and a little boring, but if you want, you can use Enray's Forerunners, or you can use that god from Amonkhet. Oh gosh, what's his name? The green guy. There are plenty of effects like this, but this one is the best. All right, I'm just trying to give you an idea what I like. Hullbreaker Horror is 5 blue for a creature Kraken Horror. It's a 7/8 with flash. This spell can't be countered. Whenever you cast a spell, choose up to 1. Return target spell you don't control to its owner's hand. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. This guy and or Tidespout Tyrant can make life extremely difficult for our opponents. They're going to have a hard time establishing a board state if we're pumping tons and tons of creatures and bouncing all of their good stuff. I love this card. I bought like 4 or 5 of them when the set came out. Still one of my favorites. So you're going to be relying on a big board state, so you may want to include some protection pieces. Heroic Intervention, Teferi's Protection, root board defenses, maybe a counter spell or 2. You're definitely going to want to include some removal. We have premium removal in white, swords, path, gift, beasts within. Anyways, man, throw an Aluren in there, combo off if you want. In any case, I think this guy can be built cheap if you sub out all the $10 plus cards, of which there are only about 14, and none of them are super pivotal. Your mana base will suffer in a budget deck, but that's just life at this point. This guy, it would be a great combo commander. You can build him really dirty if you want to. So let me know what you guys think. I genuinely care. This is going to be Nicky G from Better Commander. Wishing you a great day and signing off.